It's so hot in this house.
Welcome to the Savage Worlds GM podcast. I'm your host, Jared Savage Daddy Gunning. Tonight's episode brought to you by our sponsors on Patreon. If you want to join the ranks, go ahead and visit patreon.com/SWGM podcast and throw us a buck if you like what we do. We're also on social media, Facebook and Twitter at SWGM podcast. Don't forget to visit the YouTube channel for copies of the live stream the following Tuesday after tonight's show. And finally, but not leastly, on iTunes at itunes.com/Savage Worlds GM podcast. And wherever you subscribe to RSS feeds, Google Play, Podbean, wherever you may subscribe, we're also on most of those RSS as well. Again, we are streaming this, broadcasting it live. If you're watching the live event, feel free to participate in the chat. We do bring those questions into the conversation. So tonight's episode, one-offs. We're going to talk about favored one-sheets available from Pinnacle, as well as maybe constructing one of your own, and maybe a little pimp it for the Atomic Ninja crowd on a recent release. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And here to discuss it, Chris, the Savage Mommy Fox.
Hello.
Dave, the Rules Maven Scott.
Shout out to all of the folks from the Atomic Ninja Discord who are listening live tonight, and we're talking about it tonight on Discord before going live.
Dustin, the Savage Zealot Smith.
She was always going to burn down King's Landing.
Oh, spoilers, you asshole.
Scott W., the Savage Cheerleader.
Well played, man. Stop downvoting the video.
So, as the proud father of the newest one-sheet wonder from Atomic Ninja, I will let Dave make the announcement about the new one-sheet.
Great. Put me on the spot.
It's your show, man.
Go, Dave, go.
Here's the thing, guys. We decided that the thing that the Savage Rules community keeps kind of saying they want right now is more just kind of one-sheet type adventures to get people introduced to the new rules. So Atomic Ninja decided to launch a new one-shot every month, at least for the next year. We've got a lot of stuff already pre-set up, already pre-laid out. Carl Kessler's on board to do all the layout for us. You guys are going to be getting a monthly adventure from us on the 15th of every month going forward. And the first one is Classic Fantasy, where we take and do all our creativity is applied to using the new Suede rules. So you have an entire dungeon crawl that's run using the new dramatic task. And it is absolutely a blast to play through. I have sat and watched my personal playtester GM run it for two different groups within the last month even. And each time people just they're up at 2 a.m. still going because they just can't get enough of that particular adventure. So it's been an absolute blast. Though I will warn you, it might look like a classic fantasy party that you're part of. There's no healing. So think about what you do each step of the way through.
And the title of this one-shot adventure is
Icy Belly of Fillion Manor.
Available from the Atomic Ninja store on DriveThru RPG.
So, what are your guys' price points going to be? I know people.
It's currently $199.
Oh, that's fucking perfect.
Yeah.
At some time in the future, once we get a decent run, decent number of one-shots released on the monthly schedule, we'll then be putting them into compendium volumes that you can purchase all at a discount.
But if you figured $1.99, it's less than a cup of coffee to get an adventure every month.
Yeah, that's legit.
Yeah, it is completely not subscription. We did decide not to go with a subscription type style because that way you have freedom to pick and choose what interests you as a GM and what interests your players.
It's going to be the 15th of every month.
Yep. So let's talk about favorite one sheets. Well, first of all, let's talk about what a one sheet is for anybody who may be a new listener to the live stream or the podcast or new to Savage Worlds. What's a one sheet? Well, it's a one-off adventure that you can run in about 2 to 3 hours in a single session. Comes with all the pre-generated characters and a pre-laid out adventure. Is it a module like you used to get back in the day in D&D? No, not at all. It's most of them are written in a very open in a very open structure and open way, where it's just scene settings with maybe some suggestions about what plot is going on, but it's pretty much all of them are pretty much wide open. They usually will present you with a combat scenario, an investigative scenario, and then a final aftermath, like how you wrap it all up. And the idea is that it fits on one sheet, front and back printed. That's the idea. That's why it's also the one sheet.
Normally, the back is all the stats for the characters.
Mm-hmm. Usually the pre-generated character.
Yeah, pre-generated stuff. So you're going to get the front page is the actual adventure, and the back page is a lot of times the monsters and all that kind of stuff. I mean, sometimes it's a little bit different, but you can really just think of them that way.
Yeah. But I will say this, because most of the one-shots are tied to a genre, right? So like Deadlands, The Pulp, and all that jazz. And Pinnacle has those characters pre-generated for you, not on the one sheet, but they're just separate, right?
Right, yeah.
I would say if you're going to start picking up Atomic Ninja's one sheets, I would highly advise you to go out and pick up Atomic Ninja's it's a compendium of archetypes, essentially is what it is. And it lets you kind of pull a genre-specific archetype or bend an archetype to what genre you're playing at, and they still left room with for like you to deal your hindrances and whatnot. And yeah, I'm pimping what the guys wrote, but it actually is pretty cool shit. I used it when I ran a couple of games recently. It fast.
Yeah. And the nice thing about that product too is it's got annotated character build points along each section. So if you want to switch something out, you can easily see where the points were spent.
Yeah,
specifically designed for that.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this about the Atomic. I'm just one more quick note on the Atomic Ninja one shot. We're calling them one shot wonders because they're not one sheets. So don't think that necessarily it's a one sheet for $1.99. The first adventure, Icy Belly of Filling Manor, I believe, is 5 pages.
Nice, excellent. So I will be purchasing that after we're done tonight.
Yeah, and there's no real constraint on. I mean, we're trying to keep them under 10 pages with pre-generated characters, but there's no real constraint on making it literally a one sheet. So we'll throw that out there. So with that said, what are some favored one sheets that you guys have run that people can download for free? For example, from the Pinnacle Store page.
Go ahead.
I can't remember the name of it.
I don't know the name of it, but I like the one that does the harvest that's in the Deadlands setting, where you go through and essentially Lucifer has gone around and starving out people and shit. Oh, I wish I could remember the name of it. Something Harvest.
Harvest Home?
Dark Harvest.
Ah, man.
No,
see, this is the thing. Now you hit us with something. You didn't have us prepare for this, Jared.
Yeah, well.
The description says we're going to discuss our favorite one sheets. What the fuck did you think that meant?
Whatever, I'll find it. I mean, I can Google just like anyone listening to this.
I'll start the conversation off because I do have a favorite one sheet so far that I really, really enjoy, and it's kind of a one-off, big shock and surprise. It's in the horror genre, but it's called the Mutator.
Oh, that's a good one.
And it's kind of a Cthulhian type thing about a twisted doctor running experiments at an abandoned hospital, and you guys are the dregs of society, sort of just picked up off the side of the road. People nobody is going to miss from society. They're gone. And you wake up literally tied and bound to like hospital beds in this abandoned hospital. And it's a great little adventure that ends with like this big Cthulhu type monster transformation at the very end and a combat.
So while everyone else does the Google shuffle trying to find their favorite, the name of it, I just want to answer Alex's question real quick because it's an Atomic Ninja question. I want to get it done, get it over with. I kind of don't want to continue just talking Atomic Ninja all night, but he's asking if these one shots are going to be available for Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds, and as of right now, they are not, and that's a lot of additional programming and art that we don't have the funds to source for a product we're releasing for $2. You know, the target audience for this is folks that want to pick up a digital PDF adventure for under $5. You know, that $2 price range is really important to us. And if we start cramming in maps and tokens and the time it takes to write in all the XML for a Fantasy Grounds product or the macros for a Roll20 product, there's no way we can keep that price point that low. And it's an unfortunate aspect of when you bring a digital product to market, it's not always going to be able to stay the same price across all deliveries. And we just don't have the manpower to deliver something like that for that cheap of a price.
Yeah, especially for right now. It might be something we may come back and revisit as a add-on product.
Especially with like the newest shift to Fantasy Grounds Unity, you never know how much easier that might be to deliver in the future and things like that. We'll see. It's not something that's off the table forever, but right now it's just not something we're able to do.
So I've got a couple that I've run that I've actually had a good time with. One is for Rippers. It's the Unnatural History. It takes place in the Natural History Museum. That's a really fun one. I actually ran that at a con, and that went really, really well. We had a really
That's the one with the gigantic dinosaur T-Rex skeleton.
Yeah. I like Rippers is kind of fun. I haven't ever run, a long-term Rippers thing, but I had started one at one point that kind of fizzled. That one, and the other one I ran is Scarecrow, which is a Deadlands. I like it. It was a fun adventure. I do have one little sticking point with the adventure, but it was still fun to run. And it's an adventure that taught me that you don't always need to ask for notice checks.
Nice.
It's for me, the one that is my favorite is actually in Deluxe. I believe it's the SS Kane, because it's got all the maps and everything that you need, and it's just your classic space adventure that's so useful. Once you get down to the end, you find out what's down there, and it could be anything. So a GM can just change it how they want.
Nice.
Yeah. And the Eternal Nazi is always fun. I've run that once too.
Yeah.
The funny thing of you mentioning SS Kane, Dustin, is that I believe is the first adventure I ever actually ran for Jared, where he was seeing my GMing style for the first time. And I remember Jared, because he's so fucking, the granddaddy of all of us doing fucking Savage World shit on the internet, made sure to show me, oh, well, this is what happens when one of your players knows that story and jumps to the end as their first action.
Right. Well, no, if you read it, it's like you have to go through certain rooms. Once you get to the third room, that's when you find the body. So,
spoilers.
You are full of spoilers tonight.
I know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ah, damn, Dustin.
I know.
So
Ray is actually
so many downvotes.
Nope, just one.
So if I had to pick a favorite, I would have to say probably the two that I love the most are Smuggler's Song, first and foremost because of the time element that it puts into the adventure. Like you're actually tracking how long the characters are doing each task they're doing, so that you have this constant clock you have the players on. And especially if you know how long your con game is going to be, you can actually look at, you're running a 4-hour slot and you know that the characters have 12 hours. Well, every, 20 minutes, another hour is gone of their allotted time to get things done. And it doesn't matter what they've done role-play wise in that 20 minutes that you've been at the table. An hour of in-game time has passed. And you can really, lean into that time element, which is something that I don't think we see a lot in tabletop. We don't deal with the time element. It gets hand-waved so much. Oh, well, enough time has passed, your wounds heal. Enough time has passed that all of your power points are back. No, this one leans heavy on the every second actually counts. And then the other one is probably the Moscow Connection, because it is the single most underwhelming, underexpected experience of the players that will all of a sudden be a sledgehammer to the stomach when they come around the corner and they're facing off against people with AK-47s and they've been armed with baseball bats and shotguns. It is this absolute sucker punch of an adventure. And I have had so many people play that and had their character die to a single barrage of machine gun fire that it's a memorable moment every time that happens.
Yeah, I ran that at a convention also, and it was a lot of fun.
Now, here's the thing. That is deadly enough in Savage Worlds as it is. If you have people who are like, oh, characters never die in Savage Worlds, it's nerfed with all the soaking and everything, go ahead and run them through that adventure. Just the fact that you're using, if you're a GM and you're applying the rules correctly, and you go on a 3-round burst or full auto and you hit somebody 3 times in a row and you're rolling damage separately, and they have to decide with every salvo, am I soaking or not soaking? Like, okay, well, we resolve damage as it happens. You just got hit with a 3-round burst. Here's the first round. Ooh, 3 wounds. Are you soaking or not soaking? Because there's 2 more coming. But the thing that makes that particular Moscow connection incredibly deadly is it uses Realms of Cthulhu's gritty damage rule, which means you can't soak, right?
Yeah, wasn't that one of the first mini adventures where they kind of introduced gritty damage to kind of the Savage Worlds game?
I mean, it was always in Deluxe. With you roll on the injury table, but that was the first one that actually used gritty damage, the gritty damage variant from Realms of Cthulhu by Reality Blurred, and that is a punishing wound system when you play it.
Yeah, it really is.
I think even when I ran it the last time, when I was running it for just some friends, I think Jared and a couple of our friends, Cam and his wife, I stripped the Realms of Cthulhu stuff out of it and just ran it straight up Deluxe because I know how deadly it is. And we were just, screwing off for a night, just playing a game. That was the easiest one to throw together. And wow, just that first round of actual combat where the player characters are basically caught in the open with the opponent having the drop.
Right. Yeah. Well, here's what makes Realms of Cthulhu gritty damage deadly in that setting, right? So for those who aren't acquainted with gritty damage from Realms of Cthulhu, you take the wounds. There's no soaking. You don't throw a Benny down and go, no, it didn't happen. You apply the wounds, and then you make a vigor roll with all the wound penalties against incapacitation. And the only safe spot for you is a raise. Everything else results in almost immediate. You're incapacitated for 2d6 rounds. You're incapacitated and you're bleeding out. It is brutal.
That's kind of I guess it's the one adventure that everybody that's ever played Savage Worlds knows just kind of hits you so hard. But then at the same time, nobody that complains about Savage Worlds being so pulpy has ever really played that adventure the way it should be.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. I mean, you don't exactly bring a baseball bat to a gunfight.
Yeah.
Here's what I think Dave and I have both learned as players in Savage Worlds. Baseball bats are deadly.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're just, for some reason, they are the most powerful. Forget the firearms. For some reason, baseball bats just seem to wreak the most havoc on people. It's insane.
Well, they're up close and personal.
Yeah.
And then plus, I think we've had that discussion about range damage versus melee damage. The major effect of range is that it can attack at a distance, but once you get up close and personal, man, like if you invest in strength or you have like a higher damage die to your weapon, like you can do 2d8 damage. Like what ranged weapon does 2d8 damage?
And I see Dave, do me a favor. Recount for us the 2 times you've lost a player character to a baseball
motherfucker.
Okay, it's great entertainment.
First of all, I do want to first apologize for the laughter you're going to hear in the background, because the person who killed me with the baseball bat in at least one of those occasions is sitting 3 feet to my right and is losing her mind because Jared brought this shit up. The first one was a dead-end situation, and my character just rounds a corner going into a house. We're trying to break into a house in Beverly Hills after everyone has supposedly evacuated, because we're trying to find keys to the vehicle up front so we can get into a vehicle and get out of freaking California during the zombie apocalypse, because it's the worst place to be. And my character pops the sliding door at the back of the house, slides it open, and literally takes 2 steps. And Jared's NPC, who was standing inside the door, that I failed to notice on a notice roll, and because it's dead end, Jared said, "Are you happy with that?" And I said, "Oh, hell yes, I'm happy with it. I rolled a 2 on notice. I don't notice shit." And I walked straight into a called shot to the head with a baseball bat from a character who was ready to do it and had the drop. Now, I don't know how familiar any of you are with the Savage Worlds mechanics. That basically means it was an even roll against my toughness. By the way, I was playing a face character, so I didn't have any fighting. I had a parry of 2.
Oof.
That was an even roll against a 2 and plus 8 to the damage.
Jesus Christ.
You might as well say instant death. This is dead end. You can't soak wounds. I took plus 8 plus 2d8 damage to the head because I think Jared had said the guy had a nail driven through the baseball bat or something. It was brutal. And we're literally talking instant death.
Did the character's eye pop out?
No, that's the other one. So we did a short stint right before Eric Lamoureux announced that he was going to do Wise Guys, where I was writing up kind of my version of a
Godfather-style
Mafia-style game. And we were workshopping it. It was going to be an Atomic Ninja product. And I was targeting more the 20s, and Jared goes, "Yeah, but I really want to play the 70s. He wanted to play that, like, the returning guys from Vietnam who get dragged into the mob, and you're dealing with everything that happened right before the break of Omerta. So we were playing very traditional Wise Guys, and my character was an Italian-American, the whole 9 yards, and he was this baseball addict. Every time the game would start, I would narrate that my character was at the back of the deli with his feet up on a table with one of the little transistor radios on the table listening to the Yankees play. And so Jared, in a twist of irony, one of the NPCs that we're facing was a Russian gangster who wore a Yankees jersey, and his signature weapon was a baseball bat. And so we go through this, misadventure of, we have to go steal this thing, and we end up taking the car of another Russian gangster, and we're driving away. And they track us down because we're known criminals in the underworld, and they attack us. And my character, with a big freaking Colt Python, just starts unloading. And this guy just walks up on me, and bad dice rolls on my part. I never hit him. Not once. Jared's having the guy take cover. He just strolls up on me.
Hold on, just a second. I'm not rolling that character.
That was
I
not
didn't play that character. Yeah.
This is the part where I have to admit, that night my girlfriend decided she was going to sit in on the game, and Jared goes, "Well, here, play my NPCs for me." And she decides that her character is going to use all the rules. That thing that no GM ever does? We never use all the rules. Well, she used them all. She's taking cover. She's, going to ground, the whole 9 yards. I can't hit her with this gun. Strolls up on me and just beats me to death in the middle of a public street with a baseball bat. I'm dropping every penny I have. I'm doing everything I can to keep the character alive. And the hits just keep on coming. I don't think she had a single damage roll less than a 20 that night.
God damn.
2d8, it rolls. And if you hit with that raise, it's 2d8 and a d6. That is a vicious, vicious weapon. And we were testing, in that playtest, we were testing the version of damage that now exists in the current version of Dead End that people haven't got a chance to see other than our playtesters. And you do actually roll on the injury chart quite a bit. It's this really nasty component we've put together, and it's fun. It's amazing to play. But in that one, I did actually, Chris, end up getting the one-eye hindrance from a hit to the head.
Oh, nice.
His eye did pop out of his head and go rolling across the pavement and shit. Like it was a brutal like beat the character.
Little Glenn Rhee action there.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
We miss you, Stephen. You.
Yes, we do.
No, I don't. Not so much.
I like Glenn. I was a Glenn fan.
He died like that in the comics, though. So
when they went to put him down the well with the bloated. I mean, that poor guy.
The second not to digress on and make this a Walking Dead podcast, but very briefly, the minute he didn't kill the guy that abandoned him in the revolving door, and then also pushed him on a walker, the second he decided not to kill that guy, he deserved to die. Just saying.
So how do you build a one shot?
So let's talk about that. We've been talking about how you go about what some really good ones are to play. A little bit of diversion on how deadly baseball bats are in this game. The first thing you do is you're really setting a premise. You're not setting a flow chart. You're not saying if this happens, then proceed to this numbered scene and read this box of text out loud. That's not the way that one shots are put together. Now, I'm also going to say this too. If you look at the Pinnacle one sheets, what you're going to see is those are really free marketing materials for their settings.
To a certain extent, yes.
Yeah, and rightly so. And rightly so. It's a great way to, I'm not sure if I really like riffs or not. Let me go pull a couple one sheets and see how they play. Or I'm going to pull a couple Deadlands one sheets and see how they play and try them out. So it's a really great way to get an introduction into a setting. That said, what Pinnacle does with the one sheet, because there's so much limited space, they basically give you a story setup. Say, here are any specific setting rules. And then they give you basically 3 scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was going to set it like a 3-act.
Yeah, it's like a 3-act play. Yeah. Boom. Beginning scene, middle scene, end. And they're all unique. They might have an NPC in there that's the antagonist. They set that up, and it's pretty much open-ended as to how your characters choose to solve those problems that are presented in those setups. It's just the GM, it's whoever's writing the one sheet in particular is basically setting a table, and then you guys sit down and play at it. It doesn't matter if you eat a 7-course meal, you don't eat it all, you end up playing cards at that table. It really doesn't matter what ends up happening or transpiring. It's just a scene in that adventure that can unfold into other things. So the thing with a one sheet is it requires you to be a little bit of an improvisational GM. You got to be comfortable with things happening that aren't pre-planned and prepared, and be able to kind of go with the story and go with the flow.
Pre-written on the one sheet.
Well, now there is a dichotomy here that's not entirely true. That's true if you want to grab the one sheet, sit down at the table, and immediately play. The other thing that a one sheet is great for is for the GMs who can't come up with the story, but they can do all the busy GM prep work. So they can grab that one sheet, and now they've got their 3-act design of what this is supposed to happen, and they can flesh out each one of those acts before taking it to the table. You can easily turn a one sheet into a 12-page adventure very, very quickly as a good GM, just giving yourself notes and giving yourself that if X, then Y, if Z, then A, kind of a flow chart for what you want to do with each of those scenes. So I don't like the idea of pinning it down that these are only for improvisational GMs, because while they're great for those, they're also really great for the guys that just need a nudge through the door to start doing their own prep work.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or you just, I look at them also as time savers. If you're trying to run a game and you just don't have the time because you're adulting, one of these might be a good, thing to do for one night. I mean, if a good example of that, you're running Deadlands and you really don't have the next adventure ready, then grab a one sheet, kind of figure out where you are in your game, and kind of plug that one sheet in for the night, and work through that, and then go back to what you were doing next time. So they're really good for that.
Yeah. Well, and also too, if you have a player who calls out, you got a couple players who can't make a session, have to cancel suddenly. Okay, well, we're just going to leave a pin where we were in that campaign station. We'll wait for them next week to return. Let's go play this one sheet.
Yeah, and
one shot.
Yeah, and don't let the genre confound you or ignore it, because you can take the Rifts one sheet that has the Spider Walker in it, and now that's a Golem. Right?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Absolutely.
Listen, guys, when I cobbled together the space opera that shall not be named, I used Interface 02.0, and then for the adventures, I actually grabbed Traveler and just moved them right on over with the Savage Worlds rule set, and voila, we had a Star Wars game.
Well, and I think, though, taking that a step further is, I think more what Scott is saying is that if you're running, say, Savage Firefly, you can pretty much grab any of the Deadlands one sheets, or even any of the Rifts one sheets to a lesser extent, and drop them into your current setting you wanted to play in, and just tweak those on the fly. Because again, 9 times out of 10, those one sheets are just going to be a small stat block that it's very easy as a GM to cross out one ability and pencil in another.
Right. I was going to say very easy, very quick. Something we always say: reskin it.
Yeah.
And it's not going to take you that long.
Nope.
I would be hesitant to use that. Now, if you're going to go with Rifts, you really want to go superheroes, because Rifts is most definitely a superpowers setting. It's way up there in scale.
Right. But here's what Scott's saying, though, right? Yeah. So the one Rifts adventure, right? I can decide, you know what? My player group is infatuated. They're obsessed with Will Smith's Wild Wild West.
Right.
So now that Spider Walker becomes the actual steampunk spider.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I just describe it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I describe everything from that adventure in Wild Wild West terminology.
Right. Yeah, and just, and it's easy to, I think, it's kind of easy to take that power level down a little bit, even with the creature. You just knock a few dice off a few things, and there you go.
Well, I think if you take a step back and look, the reason we're all so familiar with the one sheet, and why I'm going to assume about half our audience or more are familiar with them as well, is it's also the exact same format that's used for nearly every single Savage tale that's presented in a plot point campaign.
Yeah.
Plot points campaigns are going to have, here are your story missions that you go through in whatever prescribed order the story calls for. 50 Fathoms, it's a little more random, whereas like ETU, it's very structured, that they run in a specific order. But the stuff that they have that packs about half of that book aren't those story missions. It's just these random one-off type adventures that are meant to be the, I didn't have time to prep anything this week. It's time for our next session. And I'm going to run Redneck Romancer this week. And just, I can pull it out of the book and literally it's ready to go.
Right. And I'm going to say this too. Go take advantage of the fact that most of the one sheets on PEG are free.
Yeah.
Yep.
Take total advantage of that. And I'm going to give you an example here, because we hear, well, how do you do this in Savage Worlds? You can glean little tiny ideas about how to apply something that's relevant to your game, not just a one sheet, but relevant to your game, by seeing how it's presented in a one sheet. And I'm going to give an example. There's a Deadland adventure called, let's see what the Ruckus at Worm Creek. And there's a section in there where they're trying to figure out, literally says, unknown to the heroes, one of the town folks isn't what he claims to be. He's been loitering around this place waiting for the shipment to arrive. If the posse opts to wire for instructions, he buys his time. If they make like they're going to depart with the shipment, he speaks up with a persuasion roll. They can also tell if he's telling the truth if an opposed notice roll by the posse member surpasses that persuasion roll. If it does, it just states she suspects this fellow is not telling the whole truth. So you hear this all the time. I want to make a roll to detect whether or not this guy's lying. I think he's lying. How do I tell if he's lying? All right, well, he makes a proposal. There you go. It lays it out for you how to handle that when it comes up in your own games. So just throwing that out there. Feel free to glean through some of those one shots. You might find a little nugget of a rules application there that's worthwhile.
I'll take it a step further and say most of the ones written by PEG specifically are typically written in a manner to highlight at least one major mechanic from the book.
Yeah.
It's not Moscow Connection. It's the second one, Red Shadow or something like that. That's in that same Crime City set. The one that I think ended up as the free adventure in Deluxe is entirely a chase adventure. Yeah. The whole thing's written to really kind of be your introduction to the chase rules. They did the same thing here when they ran the Suede Kickstarter. Is we got the Sleepy Hollow adventure that was entirely written to show the backers what the new chase rules were going to look like. PEG is really good about picking like one major mechanic and mentioning in the one sheet where to use it so that you do have this opportunity to kind of, with the training wheels on, learn the different parts of Savage Worlds very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just looking, I pulled up the page real fast. There are currently 79 one sheets.
Yeah.
So, go take a look. There's something there that you can use.
And that's just the ones from PEG. That doesn't include any of the aces who've released one sheets over the years, and it certainly doesn't include all the stuff that's starting to come out from Swag, because quite honestly, a lot of the members of the community are starting to write this stuff. And as I understood it, while right now you can't write it for any of the main PEG, lines, they said that might change in the future, and to keep watching for those notices. You might suddenly find one day that you have an entire swath of fan-written one-sheets available for your favorite setting from PEG. So it's really something not to overlook.
I kind of hope that happens, to be honest with you. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what some of the fans bring to it, right?
You're probably going to have to stay away from Rifts, though, because that's actually a licensed product from someone else. But I think PEG might be willing to let us do, in the future, they might let up and let us work with some of their specific IPs.
Well, I think Shane has said that that's kind of one of the things they're hoping for down the road, but they've got a lot of things they want to cross, because you start running into a lot of IP issues when you start saying, well, you can write anything you want in my IP.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have to be careful with it.
So we got about 10 minutes-ish left. How do you guys feel about doing a thought exercise on creating a one-shot?
I am up for that.
Sure, let's try it.
All right.
One of my business partners promised not to use whatever is discussed in this show to decide anything.
Just hold on just a second. Let me grab a notebook.
Chris is like, well, shit, if you're not going to use it.
Yeah, let me grab a piece of paper and take some notes. Okay.
I do need to mention that this show is copyright 2019 Savage Worlds Jam podcast. And all
damn it.
Blah, blah, blah.
And I really thought the RMS was going to get a one sheet.
So, what genre? Let me ask. Well, we'll ask this. Anybody in the live stream voted
you
up?
already had one answer. I want you to write an adventure about space combat using chases.
Yeah, we're not trying to get that specific. We're trying to talk about an actual story and then apply it to a one sheet, guys, or a one shot.
No, Ruben, we're not doing
post-apocalyptic. No.
Why don't you just say zombies, you fuck?
Okay, My Little Pony.
Ponies.
My Little Pony.
Okay.
I'm good to go with My Little Pony.
All right.
Okay. So we're gonna write
My Little Pony in prison.
We're gonna write a one shot. So let's throw another genre into that mix, because Savage Worlds likes to mix genres. So Mars 1889.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know enough about that.
It's actually a pretty cool setting.
Okay, so post-apocalyptic
Um,
ponies or prison ponies?
How about steampunk My Little Ponies?
Steam.
Oh no, here we go. Star Wars. We're gonna do space opera My Little Ponies.
All right.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
All right, so here's one of the things that I like to do. You'll see this in a lot of the Deadlands products as well. If you're going to kind of start at a core, kind of an exercise. And by the way, if you were writing a one sheet for this My Little Ponies space opera, understand that whatever we're coming up with is first draft off the top of our heads. You would actually go back and refine it and cut it down and call it a little bit. So let's start with the story so far. It's a nice little thing. What's happened up to this point that we're going to step into the story? So are we just going to try to mimic A New Hope and sort of plot it out as it's A New Hope, but it's My Little Ponies? Or are we going to be original?
Let's be a little original. I know we're going with the space opera Star Wars thing, but I'd rather not have Darth Pony of the Star of Death Ranch.
Okay.
I mean, we're not J.J. Abrams up in this piece.
Oh my god.
So what's a good concept? What's a good story seed? Like what's the adventure going to be about, and then we can kind of backwards engineer it into what's the story so far. Talk about what setting rules reinforce the theme of that story.
Smuggling.
I was going to say space opera. Smuggling is a great spot.
Okay. So then I'm gonna take a step further into that with My Little Pony and say it has to be about them finding hope or friendship for somebody. They're trying to smuggle into an area. Maybe they're trying to smuggle in the concept of friendship into a hostile territory.
There you go. They got to psi
must be.
suppress one of the ponies that's capable of telepathically projecting friendship.
Okay. Awesome. So they're trying to basically bring a friendship Jedi pony into an Empire-controlled settlement or outpost. Awesome. So what's the story so far? What's the background leading up to this point?
The evil ranch masters have cracked down on a particular area of Pony Valley, and this area has only now ponies that have been allied specifically to a ranch master, and the ranch masters monitor all of their actions, and they can't do anything to show friendship to another pony. All their actions have to be subservient to the ranch masters.
Awesome. So they're not necessarily hostile, but friendship is not allowed to be displayed at all. Period. No hugs. No attaboys. No bringing anybody's spirit up if they're feeling down.
Right.
Not allowed. Okay, awesome. What setting rules from Suede work to reinforce this pony theme? I'm going to say heroes never die.
I mean, that absolutely captures the My Little Pony aspect of it.
Right, yeah.
I would say creative combat applies.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that whole test to do all kinds of weird extra shit and not just shake things.
Unarmored heroes.
Oh, yeah.
That works.
The entire cast is basically unarmored.
How do we feel about wound cap?
I was going to say
Yes.
Wound Cap is probably a good one.
Well, does wound cap matter as much if we're using Heroes Never Die?
I guess
It does, because the two together will work a lot better, because you'll get in that whole comedic let's drop an anvil on someone situation and it caps at 4, versus Heroes Never Die, I think, is sort of like one of those hairs that get split, because I've had GM say, no, heroes can die. They can get coup de grace. It's just if they get incapped, they don't die. Like, they just don't soak for it, you know?
I think wound cap and heroes never die can live side by side. It makes it easier too, so you don't have to like waste bennies on soaking more than 1 or 2 wounds at a time. I also think I'm not and I'm going to say this right now. I'm not a fan of the setting rule in Suede. I'm really not. But dumb luck sort of applies.
Yeah.
It can give this when a critical fail happens, it can give it sort of a slapstick cartoony sort of outcome.
No, I would second that and add in hard choices. I think this is a great opportunity for the GM doesn't start with any bennies to affect the story. And every time the ponies spend their bennies, they're just making it easier to spot the spread of friendship and pony what do we want to say? Emotion,
pony magic.
Yeah.
Magic.
The magic of friendship. Absolutely. Here's the other thing too. I want to make sure we're making this point clear. If you use hard choices, that means nobody gets bennies when jokers are dealt.
Oh, that's true.
I think that's a little something that's overlooked in the description of that setting rule. So we're eliminating jokers. No bennies for jokers.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, I'm good with that too. Because it'll kind of reinforce a little bit of the Dark Rancher thing and make it a little bit more challenging. Okay. So let me ask this. Do we want to insert a setting rule to reinforce the non-lethality thing of this? For example, let's say in this particular adventure, you cannot spend bennies to reroll damage because it fits the My Little Pony kind of tone? Or
yeah, sure. You want to
does it
tone
not
down
matter?
the damage.
So yeah, I mean, kind of make
Kinder, gentler combat.
Yeah, kind of. The combat's not lethal.
Right. And then we might say something like, ponies are heroes, and say that therefore we're ignoring unarmed defender, we're ignoring improvised weapons, and we're ignoring unstable platform.
Now, if we want to borrow from existing things out there, I would absolutely say the heroes must act like heroes one from
Pulp rules.
The pulp rules out of Triple Ace games. That whole idea that heroes don't act bad. You can't take any negative actions, and if a player has their character pony do something that's completely uncharacteristic of a pony, you take an evil action, do something that's even kind of gray, that costs that pony a Benny to have taken that negative action because it's so uncharacteristic for a pony to do.
I like it.
What happens though whenever they run out of bennies?
Oh, they don't run out of bennies.
Okay.
Well, because you're gonna be
at the GM throwing bennies at players in a My Little Pony space opera,
and they're gonna be pony-shaped freaking gummy bears.
Yeah, or horseshoe shaped, something something horse theme, something pony theme. Maybe maybe it's like a sparkle cube or whatever. Who knows? So okay, great. What's the first scene? Is it smuggling in on the
into the planet? Is your first scene?
I think so.
Somebody has to be the quest giver. Someone has to set this in motion.
Well, hold on. No, that's not true. If it's the whole premise was there's a ranch full of fucking ponies who are being force suppressed, right, of their abilities, and now there's this pony that has psi empathy, right? Am I following this?
Uh-huh.
So why not just have that start where the team is either the team is on the ranch and they discover the psi pony as it fucking Supermans itself into the earth, or the team Supermans themselves into this environment and they realize they've ended up in a shitstorm where they can't just start running around rampantly murdering people because it'll be noticed and they'll be preyed upon immediately.
So they can't go around spreading friendship?
Not the friendship, just right. They can't just start acting normally, and it's whichever way it goes. I mean, we're dragging out a fucking one sheet to a retarded degree, but yeah, I mean,
okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like the whole point of one sheet, it's not rocket science. You should be able to put it together in like a half an hour. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I like the idea. The first scene is basically this idea of they arrive there and suddenly realize they're kind of behind enemy lines, so to speak.
Yeah.
You probably even, if you were typing this up, that would be the title of your first scene, would be behind enemy lines.
Right.
And
so
we've
maybe,
lost.
yeah, we lost Scott. I'm sure he has the link. Hopefully he comes back in. So the first scene may literally be nothing more than you just described. Welcome back.
Internet.
All right.
Fucking Tennessee.
The first scene may literally be entitled, infiltrate or behind enemy lines. You may just give it a nice little title that wraps it up in a bow. And it's literally maybe just a persuasion roll for them to infiltrate the place and convince everybody
We
else.
don't discuss how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you the mechanic you're using. I'm setting the scene. The first scene is the characters arrive in this situation from whatever you were doing in the previous, or make up some shit as the GM that starts this off. But the first scene is the ponies have arrived and have to and suddenly find themselves in a situation where they can't act normally.
Right.
And that's all the preliminary
That's true.
paragraph you're going to get in the one sheet that sets that opening scene.
Okay. So what's our second scene? Out of the frying pan into the fire, things get much worse.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So what are we envisioning as possibly the paragraph description of that next scene in the plot? However they get there. So they've dealt with trying to fit in. Maybe they didn't fit in. Maybe they were discovered.
I think the automatic assumption for this is the second scene starts when they fail to fit in. Now the conflict begins of they've revealed themselves partially or in a whole. They've kind of stepped out of line, and now the ranch overseers react to reinforce the will and try to bring these new ponies in line with the way all the others are, trying to force suppress them as well.
All right. And then we would have a third and final scene, which is rally. It's basically rally. Now's the time where they basically either escape from whatever, overcome whatever, and then somehow win over 300 or 400, how many ever ponies with friendship, and they all rise up against the rancher.
Yeah, you can do that bump out, right? Where they got to get the fuck out of Dodge somehow. A chase, dramatic task, something.
Right. So either they escape or they overcome.
Yeah, whichever.
Right. And then we have an aftermath, right? So regardless of whatever things they choose to do, you put a nice tight bow on the end of it. And you could say, regardless of the outcome, the ponies abscond with the new Psy pony and the adventures continue in the space opera pony thing. Done and done. And now you just throw in an NPC wildcard stat block and description for the rancher, maybe some couple types of ponies. You create the pre-gens for the characters. You might even just say, hey, you know what? Each one of them comes with 5 power points and a special friendship power. And you create each one of those characters as a pre-gen. 30, 40 minutes later, you're ready to just bring it to the table and start playing ponies in space.
And here is something I will say about the pre-gens. Pre-gens follow the same rules as villains. Do not build them.
Yeah.
You need a pre-gen to have an ability. It has that ability.
Yeah.
Because you're writing the pre-gens so that they make sense and that they're made for the adventure.
Mm.
The only consideration you want to make sure you have when writing up those pre-gens is that nobody feels like their character is completely overshadowed by other characters in the pre-gen pool. I should have just as much fun picking up any of those pre-gens as I have picking up any other. So that's the only consideration when you're putting them together. But don't, for the love of God, don't hold yourself to how many points you can spend or whether they could buy that edge at that rank or any of that stuff. Just throw that stuff out. And this is a one-off. It's designed to be played once and done. You're not coming back to these characters. Design the pre-gens to just whatever's going to be the most fun to play to go through that adventure.
Or what they need to overcome certain obvious plot points in that adventure as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're writing a space opera everyone has the ability to operate modern technology, unless it's a specific hindrance you're giving to a character. Everyone has the ability to use the starship or use, whatever that is. Don't write a piracy adventure and you get no one boating or swimming or athletics so that they can't climb up into the rigging and stuff like that. Like, just be smart about the way you build the characters.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. We got anything? And that's how that's some of our favorite one sheets. That's how you do a one shot adventure.
And it once again proves that most gamers are not that creative, and they have to rely on solid GMs to take a stupid fucking idea and run with it. You're welcome for fucking proving 5 years of this podcast true.
So if you did take advantage of this stream or you're watching it and you wrote up Ponies in Space and played it, by all means, comment on this video below and share that.
But before we go, another announcement from someone who's not part of Atomic Ninja about some special shit that came out this week.
Oh,
yeah. So I wanted to throw two things out real quick. Two jump starts for two different projects I'm working on. First one is SWAT, which is Spells, Weapons, and Tactics. You can go to SWATRPG.com, get on our playtest list, go out, get a copy of the Jumpstart if you haven't gotten it. The other Jumpstart is for Bureau 13, which is a second project I'm working on. So that just came out. So go check those out. I'd love to hear what people think.
excellent.
It
We
was
have
fun.
anything else left in the chat? Burning questions, things that must be addressed.
Nope.
SWAT is dope. I'll say that. I bought it just now. Yeah, it's legit.
I think it's going to be a great set. I think it's going to be so much fun.
I want to run that shit. That's fucking. It's pretty baller, actually. I'm fucking laughing every time I fucking turn the page.
If you go to the official Facebook group for SWAT, there's an image that they put out to set up the SWAT crossover with Wise Guys. That's got a whole group of these characters around the table playing cards, and like one of them's Gandalf sitting at the table, with the smoke coming up from his pipe and everything. It's awesome.
That's going to be Ocean's 11sies. And
I like it.
My favorite thing in that picture, take a look at the lights. Just take a look at the light bulbs. It's fucking awesome.
This is cool. This is good shit, man. This is funny. I like it.
Excellent. All right. Well, until next time, this is Jared Savage Daddy Gunning for Chris, Dave, Dustin, and Scott saying keep rolling and stay savage.